Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, MAPEI073, Selecting Sustainable Products for Green Building Certifications. We have some brief housekeeping before we start. Your phones are on mute. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box in the corner of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end of today's session, time permitting, or via an email after. And you can always send questions to mapeidigital@mapei.com. This is an AIA accredited webinar, so credits are available. Please send your AIA number if you're joining us live and if you're interested. We also invite you to visit our health and environment pages on our website, www.mapei.com, where we have multiple pages full of the latest industry information, including helpful links and downloads. Now, without further delays, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, MAPEI Corporation's Sustainability Manager, Brittany Storm. Brittany has a background as a sustainable building consultant and a background in construction, and this unique combination lets her speak to audiences about both the big picture and the technical aspects of a project. She's a LEED accredited professional, AP, with BD plus C and ID plus C specialties, as well as being a WELL AP and Fitwel ambassador. In addition, she's active on many sustainability committees, and I'm happy to welcome her back to the microphone. Brittany, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jen, and thank you all for joining in today. Let's get started on this presentation. During this course, the audience will gain an understanding of why customers want to construct buildings using sustainable building products and materials. Participants will learn the history of sustainability as it relates to the building industry. We'll discuss green building programs available, their active versions, and how they incorporate green product certifications and other sustainable attributes. You'll also learn more about green building products, their impacts on human health and the environment, and learn how to find and select sustainable products that meet various green building programs. The green building standards and certification systems that are available establish environmental and health performance criteria for buildings, each with varying approaches. Some of these standards or certifications may look familiar to you. Sustainable design and construction gained popularity in the 90s with the BREEAM, or Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. It was the world's first environmental assessment certification. It is more popular in Europe, however, they're making their name known here as well. In 2000, the USGBC, or US Green Building Council, introduced a similar program aimed at improving energy efficiency and environmental practices of buildings through the LEED Green Building Rating System. Other green building standards and certification systems also responded to growing interest and demand for sustainable design and construction, including programs like Green Globes or the Living Building Challenge, which was developed in 2006. Living Building is considered LEED on steroids. It's one of the most difficult certifications to achieve. Some building codes or local governments have their own standards and certifications as well. Some might be familiar with the California Green Building Standard called CalGreen. It's designed to save water and promote environmentally responsible, cost-effective, healthier places to live and work. The International Green Construction Code, or IGCC, also has a comprehensive set of requirements intended to reduce negative impacts of buildings on the natural environment. More recently, green building standards and certification systems have been developed to address other sustainability-related issues, such as human health and well-being. In 2014, the WELL Building Standard was the first standard to focus solely on how a building impacts human health and wellness. Furthermore, some standards have expanded to include supplementary programs and labels, including Living Product Challenge, which is a supplementary program of Living Building Challenge. It's a certification for products, primarily used on Living Building Challenge projects. LEED has a supplementary program called Park Smart for parking garages, and sites for parks or outdoor areas. There are a lot of green building programs out there. This actually doesn't put a dent in the total number that are available nowadays. The most well-known green building rating system is in the top left corner, LEED. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it's currently on version 4, and there's a beta version 4.1. Version 4 was difficult for manufacturers, designers, contractors, and consultants. It does get easier day by day with more and more manufacturers joining the transparency movement. So the older versions of LEED used to focus on building products or materials with recycled content, low VOC content, and sourcing locally. But LEED version 4 and 4.1 now focus on not only incorporating the older version of LEED requirements, but also now using building products or materials with environmental product declarations, health product declarations, and more stringent VOC emission requirements. The WELL building standard, just below it, is the first of its kind. It's the first rating system to focus on the occupants of a space. And where LEED leaves off, WELL picks up. So WELL and LEED work together. So using plumbing fixtures, for instance, LEED looks at a kitchen sink or a lavatory faucet's GPMs or gallons per minute. WELL looks at those same fixtures and asks how the water quality will impact human consumption. There are other parameters to meet. That's just one example. There are also active versions of LEED, 2 active versions of LEED, and they now include a materials concept in the newest version of LEED, or WELL. There are other green building standards and certifications. They all establish environmental health performance criteria for buildings, and again, each with varying approaches. Some of the green building standards that you see here focus on energy efficiency. Others are state or local, regional specific. Some focus on human health and wellness, while others focus more on the environment. Most of these do cover human health and the environment. It's also not uncommon to have projects that pursue multiple green building standards and certifications at one time for one project, so it means juggling multiple requirements. LEED, again, we talked about it just on this past screen. LEED is a green building certification program used worldwide. It includes a set of rating systems or typologies for design, construction, operations, and maintenance of green buildings. That includes homes, neighborhoods, which aim to help building owners and operators be environmentally responsible and use resources efficiently. There are 110 points distributed across 8 credit categories, such as location and transportation, sustainable sites, etc. The more points that you have, the higher the certification level. Project teams need a minimum of 40 points to achieve LEED certified, 50 to achieve LEED gold, 50 points to achieve LEED silver, 60 points for LEED gold, and 80 points or more for platinum. And each of the credit categories that you see here are made of prerequisites, which are mandatory, and credits, which are points. WELL focuses on various impacts on the body system. Each credit or feature within the WELL building standard has various impacts on the human body. WELL breaks down as follows. Under version 2, there are 10 credit categories or concepts, and these categories are made up of preconditions, which are mandatory, and optimizations, which are points. Under version 1, there are 7 credit categories or concepts, and WELL renamed a few concepts, and most importantly added the materials concept category in version 2. Similar to LEED, the more points that are achieved, the higher the certification level. The International Living Future Institute, they run the Living Building Challenge, which again is probably one of the most rigorous green building standards available. Not to mention there's many other programs that they are responsible for: the Living Product Challenge, the Living Community Challenge, Declare, and Just labels that you might be familiar with. There are 4 typologies under the Living Building Challenge. There's new building, existing building, interiors, and landscape and infrastructure, which isn't shown here. The Living Building Challenge consists of 7 performance categories or petals, which are place, water, energy, health and happiness, materials, equity, and beauty. So based on the petals pursued and their requirements, project teams can achieve various Living Future certifications. To be certified under the Living Building Challenge, projects must meet a series of ambitious performance requirements of over a minimum of 12 months of continuous occupancy. It's not uncommon to have projects that pursue multiple rating systems, which again means juggling multiple rating systems at one time. This slide is slightly outdated just because LEED version 3 just sunsetted in the end of June of this year. But just to give you an example here, rating systems that we just talked about are not meant to compete with each other. Project teams can pursue multiple green building certifications for one building at one time. So for example, the core and shell of this building on the left pursued LEED version 3, and the tenant space pursued LEED version 4 and WELL. So juggling multiple rating system requirements and multiple materials lists, it's important to note that what works for one system may not work for another. So as more and more manufacturers get on board with the newest green building programs and the latest versions, it's unlikely you'll run into this issue. However, there are times when a product will work for one green building standard, but won't work for another. It's also not uncommon to have like LEED and Fitwell buildings, or LEED and ParkSmart, or LEED and Living Building Challenge. Really, the sky is the limit on what certification programs project teams want to go after. And this will make a little bit more sense in the next section when we talk about green product certifications. But first, in traditional construction, the choice of products for a project requires consideration of aesthetics, performance, schedule, and cost. In sustainable construction, these traditional considerations are expanded to include products that require or products that reduce impacts on occupant health and the environment. Designers, specifiers, architects, contractors, owners, and even do-it-yourselfers are increasingly seeking transparency in building products and their associated environmental impacts and health hazards. The number of green building certifications and standards that are out there are creating increased demand for products with sustainable attributes. And as a result, the demand for green certifications for these products. So I just covered green building certifications, and now we'll talk about green product certifications. In order to achieve green building certifications that I just discussed, you need green products. There are a wide range of certifications and attributes that manufacturers can use to promote their products as being sustainable. The sustainable attributes of a product advise project teams that a product has met a standard and offers either environmental or health and well-being benefits. Some of these product attributes that you see focus on both, making them multi-attribute certifications for products. Others focus on single attributes with specific parameters, such as recycled content or VOC emissions. Some require third-party certification, while others do not. As a result, there are an overwhelming number of sustainable product certifications and attributes that are available. Fortunately, there are an increasing number of sustainable product tools and resources to guide project teams in making informed material selections. And today we'll talk about those that are specific to tile and tile setting materials. So using LEED as an example, it's also important to note that building projects receive LEED certification based on the number of points achieved. So like we talked about with the certified, you need a minimum of 40 points, silver has to be 50 points, gold 60, and platinum is anything over 80 points. There is no such thing as a LEED product. Products cannot be LEED certified. Green products can contribute to LEED certification, but selecting green products doesn't automatically allow the project team to achieve LEED certification. I wish it was that easy, but there are a lot of other credit categories and considerations that have to be addressed beyond materials and product selection. There's also no such thing as a LEED certified person. They are accredited professionals or APs. There's also LEED Green Associates and LEED Fellows based on their experience and exams taken. Similar rules apply for Living Building Challenge, the Well Building Standard, and other standards that I briefly mentioned. So this is what green building certifications are asking of tile and tile setting manufacturers. Our products can have up to 9 sustainable attributes or certifications for tile and tile setting manufacturers. Some are related to products' environmental impacts, others are related to health impacts, and some cover both. Some are single attribute while others are multi-attribute. These attributes and certifications are related to a product's environmental impact. So we'll talk about just environmental impacts first. In the next slide, we'll talk about those that are related to human health and wellness. The first one, embodied carbon. This is a very new sustainability buzzword. There are 2 types of carbon emissions. There's embodied carbon, which refers to greenhouse gas emissions arising from extraction, manufacturing, and installation of building materials. So there's smart choices that are made during the design can reduce a project's carbon footprint. There's also environmental product declarations or EPDs, and these include the product's life cycle assessment for raw material extraction and all the way through to disposal, so we can measure a product's environmental impacts throughout its entire life. And LCA looks at all stages of a product's life, including raw material extraction, manufacturing, distribution, and transportation, use, and disposal or recycling. And there are several types of EPDs. There's 2 that we'll talk about today. A generic or an industry-wide EPD is one that is released by multiple manufacturers. So for example, for tile and tile setting materials, TCNA has a generic or industry-wide EPD that many manufacturers have contributed to. They publish the average environmental footprint for ceramic tile, cement mortar for tile installation, and cement grout for tile installation. Product-specific EPDs cover a product or products from a single manufacturer. Recycled content, many might be familiar with this attribute. It's been around for a while in the green building industry. Using products with recycled content results in lower environmental impacts when compared to using raw materials. Recycled content refers to the percentage of materials in a product diverted from waste streams. Products with recycled content can potentially reduce the environmental impacts resulting from extraction and processing of virgin materials. Tile and tile setting materials typically incorporate pre and post-consumer recycled content. So pre-consumer recycled content is a material that was removed during the manufacturing process and reused in an alternative process before consumer use. An example of pre-consumer recycled content would be a tile manufacturer that purchases rejected porcelain from a plumbing fixture manufacturer and incorporates that material into their tile manufacturing process. There's also post-consumer recycled content, and this is a reclaimed product that's already been used by a consumer and would have otherwise been discarded as waste if the material was not recycled. So for example, using car tires instead of sending them to the landfill, reusing them in a different form other than tires in a different manufacturing process. And extended producer responsibilities, it's a take-back program. Again, that's one of those things that's still being figured out in the industry. There are tile and tile setting manufacturers that do have take-back programs. So these attributes and certifications are related to a product's impacts, mainly on human health and wellness. The red list free chemicals, material ingredients, VOC emissions, and content and green squared certification. Research shows that building materials commonly contain chemicals known or suspected to be hazardous to human health and wellness. Given that most people spend about 90% of their time indoors, there is a growing belief that our buildings are exposing us to hazardous chemicals. To protect the indoor environment, project teams should try to eliminate potential sources of contamination. So products should be free of these red list chemicals. It's a growing list of chemicals that represent the worst in class chemicals that are found in building products. And typically a manufacturer will provide a letter. There are several chemical avoidance lists, such as Living Building Challenges Red List, which identifies chemicals to be avoided and have been developed to address this growing concern. Manufacturers can confirm whether or not their product contains chemicals, again, by simply providing a letter. Material ingredient reports are documents that detail the chemical content of a product, including each of the ingredients in a product. It also shares the CAS number, role in the formula, and the hazard category tied to that ingredient. You may have heard of HPDs or health product declarations, and there are many types of material ingredient reports that are available beyond HPDs. So the top level of logos that you see there, look for these labels when you're looking for material ingredient information. It's not just HPDs, although that's one of the most popular material ingredient reports. It's also important to select products with low VOC content and low VOC emissions. Many finishes must be installed using adhesive sealants and other architectural coatings that emit or off-gas VOCs during and after installation. Project teams should select products that have been tested and show compliance with California Department of Health, or CDPH, for VOC emissions, and look for logos like SCS Indoor Advantage Gold, UL Green Guard Gold, SCS Global Services Floor Score, or CRI Green Label Plus, because these have been proven to meet the general emissions evaluation required for VOCs. And there's also the South Coast Air Quality Management District Rule 1113 for paints and coatings, or Rule 1168 for adhesives and sealants for VOC content. A manufacturer's SDS or TDS may confirm VOC content. Products that are inherently non-emitting sources of VOCs, so tile, ceramic tile, also glass, stone, concrete, clay brick, porcelain, They're all considered to be fully compliant without having to do any VOC testing, and that's only true if they do not include coatings, binders, or sealants. In addition, Tile Council of North America has a green product certification called Green Squared. It's a multi-attribute standard that covers both health and environmental impacts and addresses everything from raw material extraction to end of product life management. And this is just an example of a certification that requires third-party verification and auditing. So how do you pick a healthy and sustainable material? There's a myriad of disclosures, certifications, lists, standards, and labels in the building industry that we just saw, and it can be very confusing. On top of that, sustainability means different things to different people. So selecting products with sustainable attributes requires research and critical evaluation. And the key is to start with green building certification system being pursued, after which the project team should educate themselves on sustainable attributes that are needed to meet that certification system's goals, and then find products that meet those requirements. So hopefully there are sustainability specifications. So review specs, review 018113 for sustainable design requirements. Typically this spec section will notify you as to which green building certification the project is pursuing. And then also review the scopes, your scopes spec section. So here in the example 093000, it further details attributes or certifications the project's ceramic tile and tile setting materials should have. And then depending on the project specifications and or the green building program that the project is pursuing, you may be asked to provide several certifications or documentation for one product. So depending on the green building standard your project is pursuing, some sustainable attributes or certifications may be more important than others. Use the specifications as a checklist. This example, the project specs ask for recycled content, material ingredient report, a VOC emission certification, compliant VOC content, as well as an EPD. And note that these specifications are not asking for a specific third-party verifier or certifier that the project has to use. All of the third-party testers, certifiers, verifiers that we talked about when we were talking about the green product certifications are all acceptable. So you just have to look for those graphics to then have a better idea of what the project team is looking for in the specifications. Will every product meet these specifications? Probably not. It's best to work with a project team and your manufacturers to find the best product or products for each project, or they can help find alternatives. A wealth of sustainable information is available and continues to be developed pertaining to green products. Typically, required documentation including certifications, labels, resources, a list of sustainable products, and applicable green building standards and certification systems that manufacturers' products can contribute to can be found on a manufacturer's website. They would have the most information on product certifications, testing, etc. They would also have all of the backup documentation you would need for green building certifications. When should you ask for this material, or this information? The earlier the better. Manufacturers can help you with product certifications or help find alternatives if the product selected does not comply with the selected green building certification. Do not assume that every product meets every green building certification program. There's also free online product databases such as Mindful Materials. It's a library for project teams to select products that meet their project sustainability goals. Other libraries include Ecomedes, Sustainable Minds, etc. And then also There's individual third-party certifications like CRI Green Label Plus, SCS Global Services, and UL Spot. They have the databases for the sustainable attributes that they test, certify, or verify. And so as new and more stringent requirements continue to be introduced in sustainable construction, project teams can expect to see continued progress in advancing sustainable products and ways to find these green products. So that concludes our presentation for selecting sustainable products for green building certifications. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brittany. We have a question here. Which product attribute, and this might be very hard, which product attribute is the most important?
It depends on what sustainability means to you or the project team, or what green building program you're pursuing. There are attributes related to health and wellness, and there's others related to the environment. So I would start with saying the most important one is the one being requested by all green building standards, and go from there. So for tile and tile setting materials, that would be the third-party verified VOC emissions certification. So start there, and then the more green product attributes or certifications that that product has, whether they're related to health and wellness or the environment, the more you can continue to build and contribute to other credits within various green building standards.
Kind of drill down, right?
Yeah.
Gosh. And of course, always reach out to you.
Absolutely.
You can guide everybody through. My gosh.
Happy to help.
Man, thank you. Well, are there any other questions? We'll wait a second here and see if any other questions pop up. If not, as I said at the beginning, you can always send questions to Brittany at MAPEIdigital@mapei.com, and we'll forward them along. And yeah, she's your guide through all of this maze. So anyway, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brittany, for a fantastic explanation of something that can be very daunting. You know, I get confused very easily. So, and please do visit our health and environment pages as well, because they contain a lot of information that can help. So if there aren't any further questions, we'll wrap up today's webinar. And we thank you for joining us. And we know how valuable your time is, and we really do appreciate that you've taken some time out of your day to spend with us. So thank you, and thank you, Brittany. And
yeah, thank you, everyone.
We'll see you again soon, right? Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, everyone.